A major $175 billion development coming from the United States, and Canada wants to be a part of it.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs, and it was very successful. And now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the One Big Beautiful Bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed.
So there you have it. A massive missile defense system known as the Golden Dome. On top of that, we are 6 days away from MPs returning to the House of Commons, and it sounds like Pierre has his team working hard. Sounds like they're doing the things that Carney should be doing right now with his cabinet.
I'll quickly just jump off that, Tom, and point out that the Conservatives today put out a release saying that they'll put together like an economic council, essentially populated by a few different MPs to study sort of what is going on with the economy. It seemed like a kind of direct response to all of the evolving arguments around whether or not there should be a budget.
It sounds like the Conservatives are sort of making their own Doge. I'm all for it. Whatever they can do to keep this current government accountable.
On the point of what the Prime Minister said over the weekend, it just felt last week that that didn't track either with the brand of Mark Carney during the campaign or thereafter, right? The way he spoke about the budget on the weekend was what you would expect, I think, from him. The way that they were talking about it last week just didn't, like, in this context, it didn't track.
It didn't track, and the question can honestly be posed, was that a mistake of communications by Champagne, or does he not really understand that there's a huge difference between the two? I can't believe for 1 second that he went out there on his own, gave that, by the way, same detailed explanation in French, tax cut first, throne speech second, economic update, no budget. I mean, it was clear as a bell. Look, last Tuesday, Vashi, you had an extraordinary interview, his first, with Prime Minister Carney after the election. He talked to you about the importance of being open to pipelines. Within 24 hours, Stephen Guilbeault, whose job now involves precisely nothing to do with pipelines, was out there saying, you know what, I've looked at it, we don't really need pipelines, and there are no proponents right now. So where's Mark Carney's Katie Telford? Where's the person who blows the whistle that it's end of recreation, that it's time for everybody to get into their lane and stop messing around with other people's stuff? Oh, and by the way, if you're going to go out there on budget versus fall economic update, maybe you should, get your signals all together. Look, I'll agree with Brian on one thing. It is normal. It's, they've all just arrived. They don't have staff. It's a bit of a mess. But you've got to have somebody in charge. I mentioned Katie Telford with a great deal of deference because she was Justin Trudeau's extraordinary chief of staff, but she was Justin Trudeau's chief of staff. And everybody knew that when she was speaking, it was him, but he didn't always have to take care of every detail. She was on it. Mr. Carney's going to have to concentrate on who that person's going to be for him. It's clearly not the people who are there right now.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with respect to, I guess, even more generally staffing. It was more like the front-facing people, Rob, over the last few weeks. I will say, like, to Tom's point, it didn't feel as though the minister, or the finance minister, was making things up. You know what I mean? It seemed like there had been a directive, like, here is what we are planning to do, which is why the prime minister's comments over the weekend, were taken note of.
I think, it must have suddenly occurred to the PMO, and Tom's right, they're not staffed up yet, but they need to get staffed up soon. But I think it clearly occurred to them, maybe it was on the road, on the plane to the Vatican, on the plane to Rome. But you can't not have a budget. It's ridiculous. We've just had an election. We have a new government, and I think Mark Carney was elected because people thought he was competent and would have a plan and would be, show some capability at governing, and that includes having a budget. If the Tories had been elected on April 28th and said they weren't going to have a budget till next year, people would have been screaming blue murder, and rightly so. I think that he's gotten it right. But the other thing, to pivot, to jump off what Tom was just mentioning, your interview last week, Vashi, with the Prime Minister, I thought it was clear to me from watching that he's the boss, he's in charge, he is the government. So I don't really care what Stephen Guilbeault or any other minister says about this, that, or the other thing. At the end of the day, the Prime Minister is going to be the man with the plan. I think he's going to be the finance minister. I feel bad for Champagne, but I suspect that budget will be actually written by the Prime Minister.
Before and during the election, you didn't hear anything of this sort from the mainstream media. CBC, CTV, this one guy's from the Toronto Star. Where were these comments about the Liberals during the election? They have all changed their tune now completely, and they better keep this same energy going forward. I want to know what you think down in the comments section below. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.